The May 23rd, 2011 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Antelli. Here. Mr. Beebe. Here. Mrs. Draw. Here. Mr. Eckel. Chairman Hanna.
Here.
Mr. Lee. Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. McCann. Here. Mr. Yolovich.
Here. Mr. Chairman, for the record, please, sir.
We will address that at the meeting close.
Thank you.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum this evening?
There are 3 public forum speakers this evening. I will call your name. Please come forward, and you will have 2 minutes to address the committee with your remarks. Please conclude when the timer sounds, and thank you for your cooperation. Our first speaker will be Ruth Marchetti. Right to the podium. Oh,
Good
a
for
little
you.
winded.
I'm still catching my breath. Good to take the stairs. I'm Ruth Marchetti. I work for Catholic Charities, the Diocese of Rochester, as the Justice and Peace Coordinator for 5 of our rural counties. So I live here in Monroe. I work in Wayne, Ontario, Yates, Seneca, and Cayuga. We have a large population of migrant farm workers who have lived under very difficult circumstances for a very long time now, as have our farmers who have depended on them. Immigration has been a public policy issue of the Diocese of Rochester repeatedly, and we are just now raising to the New York State Catholic Conference our desire that New York State rescind the memorandum of agreement, that Governor Patterson signed with the Department of Homeland Security, that New York State would implement secure communities. I don't know if you have background yet on secure communities. Should I go through the background piece on it? I'm going to give you my paper.
That would be fine if you submit that.
All right. We have great concerns both about the human rights of the immigrants, but also about concerns about local police enforcing immigration and issues of trust and being able to enforce law. So we have tremendous concerns. We also concerned from our own background of our Catholic social teaching, and I'm just going to read you the concern from the U.S. Catholic Conference Office of Migration and Refugee Services. Mandatory or not, secure communities, like its 287G counterpart, has unquestionably changed the relationship between federal immigration enforcement and state and local law enforcement. In its current form, the program casts a wide net that captures, there's my, so you can go through it, that captures in its fold virtually any immigrant who has come into contact with the criminal justice system. Based on hard data and anecdotal evidence alike, community and legal advocates and civil rights groups continue to denounce what they deem to be a clear pattern and practice in select jurisdictions of channeling immigrants into the criminal justice system through racial profiling and pretextual arrests for the purposes of vetting them for their immigration status. We have great concerns about this. We would love to see Monroe County set an example for other counties of what a local community can do to not participate in secure communities.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Our next speaker is Kaylin Rich.
My name is Kaylin Rich. I'm the director of the Genesee Valley chapter of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the Honorable Councilmember Hanna and the members of the Public Safety Committee, as well as the Monroe County Legislature, for the opportunity to speak before you. Founded in 1951 as the New York affiliate of the American Civil Liberties Union, the New York Civil Liberties Union is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan organization with 8 chapters and regional offices, nearly 50,000 members across the state. As you can tell, we are here tonight to talk about secure communities, which is an issue that we hope the Monroe County Legislature Public Safety Committee will decide to take up. Secure Communities, or SCOM for short, is a federal program that threatens civil rights and weakens public safety by targeting immigrant residents for detention and deportation. Under SCOM, everyone who is arrested and fingerprinted by local police has their biometric information, aka their fingerprints, checked against immigration and customs enforcement databases. If there is a match, whether correct or not, that individual can be subjected to immigration detention, often displacing them hundreds of miles from home, and deportation. As you've heard, in May of last year, New York State quietly entered into an agreement with the federal government regarding SCOM, with the understanding that local jurisdictions could decide for themselves whether to participate in the program. In recent months, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has changed their mind and stated that the participation will eventually be mandatory. Currently, SCOM is activated in 27 of New York's 62 counties, and sadly, this past March, Monroe County was one of the jurisdictions to quietly activate SCOM. The Monroe County administration made this decision without public discussion and without notifying the Monroe County Legislature, even though the SCOM agreement involves the county sheriff's office. The DHS bills SCOM as a public safety measure intended to identify and deport dangerous criminals, something we can all agree would be a good thing. But ICE data for the New York State jurisdictions currently participating in SCOM shows that 80% of the individuals taken to ICE custody were never even convicted of a crime. And nationally, only about 20% were convicted of serious crimes. In short, SCOM unfairly burdens county budgets since taxpayers will pay for the extra time arrestees spend in jail waiting for immigration checks. In addition to any legal settlements, counties must pay out to illegal detentions under SCOM. Further, public opposition to SCOM is spreading throughout Monroe County, New York State, and beyond. 38 members of the New York State's Senate and Assembly have urged our governor to follow Illinois' example and withdraw from the program. And the public has to summarize, the public has been badly misled about SCOM, which is far from a public safety measure. It's a bad policy that involves racial profiling, creates distrust between police and immigrant communities, unfairly burdens taxpayers, and tears families apart. So I'm calling on you, our elected county representatives, to use your influence to demand the Monroe County administration withdraw from SCOM immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rich.
Our next speaker is Sister Gracia La Esperance. Close.
My name is Grazia Lesperance. I'm a Sister of Mercy, and nationally, one of our critical concerns is immigration. I am also a member of the Interfaith Alliance of Rochester and serve on our Immigration Committee. I wish to speak about the Secure Communities program agreed to in March by the county. The program enlists local law enforcement personnel in monitoring and detaining immigrants. However, immigration is basically a federal responsibility. First of all, the county executive has often spoken of the urgent need to reduce unfunded state and federal mandates. Why, with no consulting of the legislature, has this program been adopted when it is sure to impose additional law enforcement costs, for example, personnel time, as well as the detention of suspects? Secondly, the stated purpose of Secure Communities is to apprehend and deport serious criminals. And as Kaylin just mentioned, nearly 80% of those detained to date and deported from New York State have committed either no crime at all or a low-level offense. I am not one of those likely to be picked up on suspicion of being undocumented because of driving while black or brown. I happened to be born here in Rochester 79 years ago. I also happen to be one of the pale people. I had no say about any of this, nor did anyone in this room have a choice about country of origin, color, or year of birth. I urge the Public Safety Committee and the legislature to consider rescinding this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister.
That's it.
Is there anyone present this evening who is not signed up to speak that would like to address the committee? Seeing none, we will move on. The next item is the approval of minutes. You have the April 25th, 2011 minutes before you. They'll stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item is we have a presentation here this evening. Paul Johnson, the Associate Planner of the Planning and Development Department, will now give a brief overview of the 2012 to 2017 Capital Improvement Program as it pertains to this committee. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone should have a copy of the County Executive's proposed program. This is the result of a process that we follow each year to put this program together. It begins in the fall when we ask departments to propose projects for inclusion in the program. Those proposals are reviewed by an internal committee that makes a recommendation to the county executive on the projects that are worthy of inclusion in the program. The executive then submits her proposal to the Monroe County Planning Board, which reviews and recommends the program. As part of their review, they conducted 3 public information meetings in early March and submitted their final recommendation for approval at their March meeting. The executive has now forwarded this program onto the county legislature for your consideration. Under the charter, you're required to hold a public hearing, which hopefully you will schedule for your July meeting and adopt a program after that. The proposed program is a plan. There are no funding approvals associated with your action on this 6-year program. That first opportunity for funding would come as the capital budget is proposed as part of the operating budget for the 2012 year, which you'll receive towards the end of this year, and hopefully adopt the capital budget and the associated bond resolutions for these projects as part of the budget adoption in December. For today's meeting of the Public Safety Committee, I'd like to review very quickly 2 program areas, the Sheriff and Public Safety Services. The Sheriff's program can be found on page 67 of the document. This list of projects is identical to the list that appeared in last year's program, so we don't have any new projects. We have a couple of funding changes, one seemingly minor one for the Court Bureau Base Station and exterior camera replacement project in 2012. That project has increased by $25,000. And the top project there, the Monroe County Jail and Correctional Facility improvements, you'll see funding in 2017 for $2.25 million. And those, Mr. Chairman, are the Sheriff Department proposals. The second one would be the Public Safety Services projects, which are on page 71 of the document. The Public Safety Training Center project has appeared previously, and you can see funding in 5 of the 6 years for improvements at that facility, and a new project appearing for the first time in 2017, the 911 Public Safety Integrated System Management Upgrade and Enhancements project. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman. We'll be happy to take questions either now or when the committee gets to this item on their agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We will take questions now and then vote on it a little later. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? Yes, Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, through you, to Mr. Johnson, administration, under the sheriff's part of the CIP, under range facilities, the project is no longer included in the CIP. However, it states that the location sites are being evaluated. Last year, this body was told that this project was in the development stages, including site selection and evaluation. We also were told that $800,000 had been bonded for this project, however, has not been able to locate the authorization within the last 3 capital budgets. So to you, Mr. Chairman, what is the status of this project?
Through the chair, Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office. Originally, this project, we were going to buy self-enclosed ranges and put them on top of the new PSB for the Sheriff's Office. However, we found that the roof could not support the trailers, so we were going to move it to the plaza level across from where all the new green park is going to be. However, that has been delayed because of the new green park. So we just decided to put it on hold for a while until we could get a better location for the range. The whole idea of the range was to have it downtown so that our jail bureau staff wouldn't have to travel to the PSTF to have training, and that everything would be in-house, and it would eliminate some overtime with the yearly firearms training.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. So at this present time, there's no debt that's being issued or authorized for this range?
To the chair, no.
Okay. So basically, it's been put on hold through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. Is that why it's not showing up in our current CIP? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Through the chair, can you repeat that last question?
My question is, with the project being on hold, is that the reason, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, that it's not showing up in our current CIP? Or where do we find, even previously to you, Mr. Chairman, this allocation? I know you said it's on hold, but we haven't been able to find the allocation for the project in current or past CIP budgets.
Through the chair, Scott Adair, Director of Finance. I think where the confusion is coming in is you're referencing a project that was in the 2011 through 16 CIP, and that particular range was targeted to be done in 2012. So there was never any bonding resolution authorized by this body for that particular project, and subsequently the Sheriff's Office has delayed that project at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. My next question. Under the Department of Public Safety, through you, Mr. Chairman, under Public Safety Integrated Management Information Systems, this project is no longer included in the current proposed CIP, and maybe it could be potentially because of the same reason. The last year's document had indicated $4 million in expenditures for 2012. In April 2010, the legislature adopted referral 10-0083 with bond resolution 72. Why has this project been dropped from the current proposed CIP? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Through the chair, I believe, without getting into the details of the specific reference that you had there, it's the same issue as previously discussed. The project was never, there was never a bonding resolution issued for the project because it was part of the 2011 through 16 CIP, but not planned until 2012.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Yolovich.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Curley. One of the, and you've heard me say this before, one of the biggest complaints that I have from road patrol people that I talk to on a regular basis is the fact that they can't get time at the range when they need the time at the range. It's a huge problem. How long are we going to put this off?
Through the chair, yes, we all hear about the range issues, and because the city controls the range, we need to find a good location, and the price of it has gone up considerably since the original proposal. The trailers would have been self-contained, they would have gone on the roof, and it would have been fine, but the roof can't support it, and we needed probably a couple more $1 million to enhance the structure of the building in order to put those on the PSB. So I don't know how much longer. It's funding's an issue and the location is an issue.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I will say this, that I've got 3 acres and part of it's for rent if you...
Is there any other discussion? Legislator Beebe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions through you to the administration. In the CIP, the sheriff's HRT vehicle replacement, I see there's no impact on the budget. Can you tell me where that funding will come? from?
Through the chair, we're just replacing a vehicle that we already have, and so there would be no impact on operating. And we are trying to secure Office of Homeland Security funding for the purchase of that vehicle.
All right, thank you. And through the chair, to the administration, same question in regards to the containment vessel replacement?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. I have one more question, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, in public safety training center capital improvements, it's stated to renovate the aging facility infrastructure and specialized training props. Could I have a little bit more detailed explanation of that?
Through the chair, Steve Bowman, County Public Safety Director. The facility at the Public Safety Training Facility, props were put in late 90s and actually started in 2001. And by 2012, they will be about 11 years old. And many of the, particularly the fire props out back that are propane driven, we've had to do some minor repairs on over the last couple of years, but in the very near future, they will need some significant upgrades and replacement. It is basically a one-of-a-kind system that allows propane-driven fires with sensors to sense both the cooling agent and the amount of water if it's been applied appropriately. So those will need to be replaced over the coming years. And that's what this is really for.
All right, thank you. And I just want to add that having toured the facility and having been previously a firefighter, I wish I was a lot younger right now to go through that training facility and what I used to have to go through to improvise training. So, burning tires. Yeah, burning tires and paint thinner and all those other neat things that we used to do, yeah. So it's a great facility, and hopefully you'll continue to be a great training place for our people. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Legislator Eckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, under the Public Safety Services, the 911 Public Safety Integrated Systems Management Upgrade Enhancements due for 2017, is this pre or post moving the backup system to the airport? And will that include the backup facility?
Through the chair, in 2017, it will be obviously post-move to the new MRC and the backup center. And we estimate by 2017 there's going to be a number of replacement needed to upgrade that equipment. So that's why we've put it out about 5 years.
Okay. So it sounds to me, if you'll correct me if I'm wrong, this is really a lot of laptops, desktop computers that are integrated through a system, but mostly just separate pieces of equipment that will be not one like mainframe server.
Through the chair, that is correct. And we're on about a 5-year replacement. They work 24/7, so it's our estimate that about that time certain things will need to be replaced.
Yeah, my computer usually goes dead after 5 years, too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? I'd like to thank Mr. Johnson and the members of the Public Safety and Sheriff's Department. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 11-143.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 11-144.
Moved by Legislator McCann, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Legislator Lightfoot?
I was a little slow on my draw there. Through you, Mr. Chairman, as a new contract provided these services previously, how many other respondents to the RFP? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. was a two-part question, too. I'll repeat it.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. It's a new contract. Who provided these services previously?
Through the chair, Jen Summers, counsel to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Dr. Schmiegel was our previous provider as well. He, as well as Strong Occupational Medicine, were the two respondents to the request for proposals.
Yeah, very familiar with Dr. Schmiegel, way too familiar with Dr. Schmiegel, I should say. How many other respondents to the RFP?
Right, there was one other, and that was Strong Occupational Medicine. There were only two respondents, Dr. Schmiegel and Strong OccuMed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries. Next item on the agenda is other matters. Earlier in the meeting, we had some public forum concerns about secure communities. I know that we had a question in the last public safety meeting. So I've asked Mr. Bowman to come and address the committee regarding the secure communities. Mr. Bowman, would you like to say a few words?
Through the chair, I can give a little background on the history and how the secure communities started, and then I've asked Probation Director Bob Burns to give a little more specifics around the Law Enforcement Council issue. Again, through the chair, the House Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee on Homeland Security, in 2008, fiscal year 2008, asked the Department of Homeland Security to come up with an improved and modernized effort to identify aliens convicted of crime, sentenced to imprisonment, and who may be deportable, and then to remove them from the United States once they're judged deportable. And ICE submitted this strategic plan called Secure Communities, a comprehensive plan to identify and remove criminal aliens, known as Secure Community CIRCA. And they presented that to the Homeland Security Committee, subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee, in March of 2008. And since then, ICE has expanded that process. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Janet Napolitano, announced this initiative and a partnership with local law enforcement back in November of 2009, in which they would use biometrics to identify and remove criminal aliens. And to this date, as far as I know at this point in time, they've identified about 111,000 criminal aliens in local custody during the first year. ICE prioritizes the removal of criminal aliens, especially those convicted of crimes such as homicide, rape, kidnapping, and threats to national security, to prevent them from being released back into communities after they complete their criminal sentences. It's very clear in all of their documentation that local law enforcement officers are not authorized nor asked to enforce immigration law or inquire about an individual's status. Only when they are arrested for a crime and then they're booked into a facility is when those biometric fingerprints are sent off to both the FBI and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So that's sort of the history. There is up on the website, ICE website, lists by state the number of counties or communities that are involved and committed to the Secure Communities Initiative. The President and Secretary Napolitano have indicated that by 2013 they expect 100% participation by communities in this country. So with that, I'm going to let Bob Burns just give you a little bit more specific.
Through the chair, I can give you some information with regard to probation's involvement with secure communities. During the year 2010, we received within the Law Enforcement Council a couple of briefings on secure communities. ICE or their agents and special agents and agents in charge are often present at law enforcement council meetings. That's our local police chiefs, parole chief, probation, Steve Bowman, public safety director. We meet on a regular basis to discuss programs and discuss trends and so on. There was information sharing. There was a presentation at the Public Safety Training Center in late 2010, and by December of 2010, I had been contacted by Western New York ICE leaders asking if the Monroe County Office of Probation would join the Secure Communities effort. A few things need to be clarified. One is that probation is not a fingerprint agency, the fingerprint contributing agency, so we would not be sending any information to ICE, just as we don't send fingerprints to any other agency. Secondly, that probation officers have long worked very closely with ICE and its INS prior name, and the agents working for the Immigration Naturalization Service. There's always been a pretty free sharing of information between probation officers and that agency. The New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives, presents rules and regulations that we have to abide by, and one of those rules is that we are encouraged to cooperate with law enforcement agencies, and Homeland Security and national security issues are listed at the top of that requirement. So we're certainly obliged, or at least strongly encouraged by state rule, to cooperate with regard to any of our offenders who might be in this country illegally. Probation only deals with convicted offenders, so there's no issue with us relating to people who might be innocent or have not had their day in court. So when I was asked to sign on, if you will, to participate, we looked at the fact that all of my colleagues, police chiefs in this area, had already indicated their support. The sheriff was supportive. DCJS, both Governors Patterson and Governor Cuomo were on board. That's what caused us to say yes. There's been no expenditure of time, no expenditure of money, no staff time that has entered into this process. We've provided no information that we normally wouldn't have provided by telephone or by personal contact. Our view is that this was bringing the same kind of collaboration between a federal agency and local law enforcement that we would do in a non-computer age. We were just moving into an electronic age. There are some indications that the sharing of information would be easier or would be faster. That's something we do on a regular basis with any agency that seeks to work with us. I have similar agreements with the Monroe County Monroe Crime Analysis Center, or MCAC, here in Rochester. I have similar agreements with the U.S. Marshals Service when we do warrant details together, and various other agreements with federal and state agencies when it comes to fighting crime. So that's our status. We keep in touch with state DCJS. We're not aware of any change that is occurring as far as their support, and that's about all I can provide, Steve.
Through the chair, one or two more points. This was not a county decision per se. I would defer to the sheriff's representative here, but I believe that a booking agency along with the Law Enforcement Council made that decision. I would also say that resolutions of support for secure communities have been issued by the National Sheriff's Association, the Major County Sheriff's Association, which I believe Monroe County is a member of, as well as the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police.
Very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the update. Considering this is not a referral before us, I just I'd appreciate you coming and giving us the update. So we will move on to any other matters. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? Seeing none, the May 23rd, 2011 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee is scheduled for June 27th, 2011 at 5 p.m.